If you're looking to buy a stacked NBA 2K account with max badges and more, visit sportstmb.com. He has been in the community for years and has hundreds of reviews. Click the first link in the description to get your account today.
I like trades. Do you like trades? Because I like trades. I assume you like trades because you clicked on this video. Yeah, that's it. That's the intro. Now you people can't complain about me having long-ass intros.
Absolutely incredibly with the acrobatic alley-oop.
This is obviously part one. We're going to be doing one trade for every team in the Western Conference. And maybe if I'm not playing Jedi Fallen Order too long, I can get part two out tomorrow with the Eastern Conference teams. That game is really good. Oh, also, I recorded these trades in a podcast with Mojo, and it's probably going to kill said podcast for you guys, but still go listen to it to hear Mojo's trades and what he thinks of mine and vice versa. And one last thing, this video is going to have trades that vary from a guy who's going to get 15 minutes a game to a star level player. Anyways, the Los Angeles Lakers. Here is an example of a small trade. The Lakers are doing really great right now, and I don't think they need to make any major changes. But when you have LeBron James on your team, you can never have too much shooting. Now, Damian Dotson has been one of the more slept-on players in the NBA in the past few years, and I think he would fit perfectly in Los Angeles. He's had a down year so far this season with getting less minutes, but for the Knicks last year, Dotson put up 5 threes a game and shot 38%. The main reason he's been struggling is a lack of minutes, and the Knicks being the Knicks. But if Avery Bradley or KCP are not hitting their shots, which happens pretty frequently, you can sub in Dotson, who is a great shooter. The trade would be Quinn Cook and a second round pick. Dotson is very cheap, both in having low trade value and in his contract because he only makes $1.6 million this year. Now for the Clippers, I think the main thing the Clippers are lacking in is playmaking. Kawhi has stepped up in that category, averaging a career high in assists, but that's still only 5 assists per game. Lou Williams is also getting 6 assists per game, but I still think this team could use some extra playmaking, and a cheap guy who can give you that playmaking is Ish Smith. Ish is averaging 4 assists in 25 minutes for the Wizards. He averaged 7 a game not too long ago for the Sixers. He has good vision, can handle the ball. He's a pretty good defender with a decent jump shot. He's had shooting problems before, but he is shooting 38% from downtown this season, which is a career best. The trade would be Rodney Magruder and probably 2 second-round picks, maybe just 1, depending on how high in the second round those picks would be. For the Dallas Mavericks, the one thing they really need is a center, particularly a rebounding center. There's been a lot of suggestions for Steven Adams, but the problem with that is they'd have to trade Tim Hardaway Jr. to get him, and THJ has been playing great for the Mavs. A cheaper option would be Tristan Thompson. Now, people have memed on Thompson in the past, deservingly so. He's in the news more for cheating on whichever Kardashian he's with than he is for actual basketball, and he was also criticized a lot during the LeBron era, as pretty much every player who plays with LeBron is. But he is a very good rebounder, which they need, and he's a solid defender. The Mavs would have to give up Courtney Lee's expiring, Justin Jackson, and JJ Barea. I think the intrigue of Justin Jackson, who's shown some signs as a shooter and scorer and is just 25, is enough to get Thompson, and Tristan's expiring, so that's not a cap hit for them. Now for the Denver Nuggets, we have a small trade that I do not want to happen because it involves a bull, and that bull is Denzel Valentine. Denzel has been crazy good this year. He's currently shooting 41% from 3 on 4 attempts a game in just 13 minutes a game, which is 10 threes per 36, meaning it's pretty much bombs away when he's in the game. He's also a solid defender, a decent playmaker, averaging 3 assists per game in 2017. The Nuggets have always been lacking in wing depth. Denzel Valentine's a little short for a wing, but he is pretty strong, and the trade would be Juancho Hernan-Gomez and a second round pick. Again, as a Bulls fan, I don't want this to happen, but I think that would be enough to get you Denzel. Next, we have the trade in the thumbnail. thumbnail, and it's in the thumbnail because I'm really damn proud of it. The trade is Aaron Gordon and DJ Augustine to the Rockets for Eric Gordon, Nene, Austin Rivers, a trade exception, and 2 first-round picks. Now, from the Rockets' perspective, PJ Tucker is now 34 years old. He can't keep playing 36+ minutes a game. Seriously, Mike D'Antoni, what the fuck is wrong with you? This team is also lacking in depth. If you traded for Gordon and DJ, you could bring Tucker off of the bench and have DJ as a great backup point guard. Gordon is a player that I feel has hit his peak, and his peak is as basically a poor man's Draymond Green. Not quite the defender or playmaker, but he's still very good in those areas. But he's also a bit better overall as a scorer, both questionable as shooters, but Gordon is a player who belongs on a contending team, and I think he'd fit perfectly in Houston. Now, as for the reason that you would trade Eric Gordon, there's 2 things here. One, I would wait until the trade deadline to make this move to see if what I'm about to say ends up still being true. For 2, as of right now, Eric Gordon has sucked in the games that he has played, and Ben McLemore has been phenomenal all year. He's averaging 10 points per game, but more importantly, he's doing that shooting 37% from 3 on 7 attempts per game, doing this in 25 minutes a game. And I'd say 29 games is a pretty damn solid sample size. If by the deadline he has slowed down, then fine, don't make the move, especially if Eric Gordon is good once again when he comes back from injury. But if McLemore is still playing at this level and Gordon is just whatever when he comes back, I think Gordon is very expendable. If you make this trade, you can have a starting lineup of Russ, Harden, Daniel House, Aaron Gordon, and Clint Capella, and then off of the bench you can have 3 real contributors in PJ Tucker, Ben McLemore, and DJ Augustine, who is a great backup point guard, really good shooter, and solid playmaker. I think that team is much better than their current roster, and then as for why Orlando would make this move, there's been some rumors about Aaron Gordon being traded for a while now. He seems kind of like the odd man out with Jonathan Isaac killing it when he is a natural 4. And because of the lack of offense on this Orlando team, Gordon keeps being forced into this creating offensive role, which is not the role he should be in. And this Magic team has needed some shot creation for a while. Assuming Gordon turns it around, because it has only been just 10 games, he can be a 20 point per game scorer on a team like the Magic that needs him to be that. That's my big brain trade. Maybe everyone hates it. I'm sure the comments will let me know. Next is an interesting trade, and that is Marcus Morris to the Utah Jazz. Morris has been having a career year in New York this season, and he'd fit in perfectly with Utah, who at this point I think Utah has to give up on Tony Bradley and a first-round pick. I also think that trading for Ish Smith would also be a good idea for this team like it is for the Clippers, because Emmanuel Mudiay is a decent backup point guard, but he really is not a playmaker. The Jazz need another scorer, especially with Mike Conley being booty cheeks, and Marcus Morris can be that, and they could also use some more playmaking with, again, Mike Conley being booty cheeks and him also being injured a lot, and them only having Emmanuel Mudiay as a backup point guard, so trade for Ish Smith. The Ish trade would be Jeff Green, Georges Niang, and 2 second-round picks. Next, we have OKC. I've seen this trade thrown around, and it's pretty much perfect. It's Danilo Gallinari and 2 second-rounders to the Pacers for Miles Turner. Miles is a young player, still just 23 years old, and he'd be a good pairing for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the Pacers get a 4 that allows Domantas Sabonis to play the 5. This next trade for the Kings, I really do not like that much, but it's also not horrible. This is in the event that Bogdan Bogdanovic asks for a trade, which is something that's been hinted at for a while. The move would be Bogdan and Harry Giles to the Cavaliers for Larry Nance Jr., Jordan Clarkson, and the Milwaukee Bucks 2021 first, a first rounder that the Cavs got in the George Hill trade. The Kings get back a guy that can theoretically replace Bogdan's scoring off of the bench in Jordan Clarkson, and a good backup 4, because they currently are not playing a backup 4 because Giles isn't getting many minutes. I do think the Cavs would like him though, because he does have some potential and he's young. And then the Kings also get back a first round pick. And the Cavs are kind of the reason that I don't like this trade as much. I think if Bogdan asks for a trade, that's a decent return for him. But for the Cavs, even though I think it's pretty clear that Garland and Sexton are not going to work, I don't know that you're going to be able to convince Cavs management that yet. Also, Bogdanović might be a little too old because he is 27. Like I said, I don't really like the trade, but whatever, there it is. The Trailblazers trade Andrew Nicholson, Anthony Tolliver, and 2 seconds for Frank Ntilikina. The logic for this one is basically the Blazers need some defense. Frank plays defense really fucking well, and he's been respectable from 3 this year, and with Frank being able to play both guard positions, you can match him with any one of Dame, CJ, and Anthony Simons, and he can make up for their defensive deficiencies. Can you tell I think the Knicks should trade basically everybody? Because I think the Knicks should trade basically everybody. The next trade is great or horrible depending on how you feel about Jeff Teague. The Suns need a backup point guard. Ty Jerome and Javon Carter are both shooting in the 30s. Eli Okabo is shooting respectably, but he's still a whatever player. The Wolves have been trying to ship out Teague for a bit now, and you can make that happen with Tyler Johnson and either a few second rounders or a top 20 protected first round pick. I don't know. But I think that Teague could be a great sixth man. I actually think he could do something similar to what Goran Dragic is currently doing for the Miami Heat. Going from like alright, this guy's a pretty decent starting point guard to like a 6th man of the year candidate off of the bench. He would definitely help the Suns scoring wise, and he's a good playmaker. Speaking of the Wolves, this was my first trade in my Timberwolves My GM series, and that trade was Gorgie Deng and 2 second round picks for Marvin Williams. Marvin is a good 3-and-D veteran at the 4 spot. The Wolves currently do not have a 4, so they've been playing Robert Covington and starting this Graham guy at small forward, which is not a good idea. So the Hornets get some picks, the Wolves get a good starting 4. It's pretty self-explanatory. For the Spurs, I'm of the opinion that they should trade DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge. This trade would be LaMarcus Aldridge to the Miami Heat for Justice Winslow and James Johnson. The Heat get back an all-star, and the Spurs get back a relatively young small forward who can be a point forward offensively and a great defender. For the Memphis Grizzlies, I do think this is a pairing that will probably end up happening through free agency, but if the Grizzlies do not want to have to deal with restricted free agency, they could do this. The deal is Grayson Allen and a 2nd rounder for Malik Beasley. Beasley showed a lot of potential last year. He's had a down year with way less minutes this season, but as a shooter, he'd fit perfectly next to Ja Morant, and the Nuggets get back another young 2-guard who can hit threes, play defense, and break the opponent's legs. Next, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. This is an odd one that involves the Miami Heat. The Heat get back Etuan Moore, and the Pelicans get Dion Waiters and a top 20 protected first round pick. The Dion Waiters situation is an odd one, but the Heat get out of dealing with him, and they get back a very underrated 2-guard in Moore, who is a good 3-point shooter, good ball handler, capable creator, and respectable defender. And the Pels get back a first-round pick that is almost guaranteed to materialize with how good the Miami Heat are. Normally, Moore is not worth a first-round pick, but you're also getting away from Dion Waiters, who's been a distraction. Now, I would keep Dion Waiters as far away from this young Pelicans team as possible, but a first-round pick is a good return for Moore, even if you do have to take on Dion Waiters. And last, but actually it's least, the Golden State Warriors don't make a trade. The Warriors don't need to make a trade right now. They need to hold on to their assets and then use whatever assets they have to build around Curry and Clay in this year's offseason. Making pretty much any trade doesn't make much sense for them right now. That's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.